we envision a free podcast studio that is open to the public.
That was Todd Nevins, and this is Podcast Ninja.
Podcast Ninja.
What's going on, ninjas? I'm your host, Anthony, and this is Podcast Ninja. It's a show that interviews the most successful podcasters in the game. And this episode is with Todd Nevins, who is the host of the Go Hunt Life podcast. Now, if you have a podcast and you want to outsource your show in order to save you a ton of time, podcastninja.net. During the show, Todd is going to be talking about the free podcast studio in Austin, Texas. Yes, I did just say free. And he's going to talk about how it's bringing the entire community together. You're going to find out what equipment he's using, how to book your studio time. He's going to really talk about some lessons learned throughout the whole entire journey and how he monetizes his podcast. Let's get into the show. Yeah. Well, actually, wait, how long were you in Austin, Texas for?
I've only been here a year and a half. And
a year and a half.
Prior to Mexico, we lived up in Dallas, 3 hours north of here, in Dallas for 18 years. So in Texas since 92,
okay.
But up in Dallas for the vast majority of that, and then just lived here in Austin since spring of 2016.
Wait, so why'd you pull the trigger on Austin? Because, like, you know, you hear Dallas. Like, I've been to Houston for, like, a meeting one time, my old job. But,
yeah.
You know, where did Austin come from?
My wife's brother lives here, but
Okay.
but the big deciding factor is that it's a lot smaller than Dallas or Houston, and the tech scene and the startup scene, venture capital, the whole vibe is off the charts here in Austin. Austin is a conglomeration of it being the state capital, and University of Texas is here, and Dell was started here, and it's, you know, self-described live music capital of the world or of the U.S. or whatever it is. So those factors are all very different, and the result is all different types of people coming in from all over the world, but definitely all over the country for different reasons. But the downtown scene in Austin from the startup community is everyone is very accessible, and everyone is within about 10 blocks of one another, or if not less. And so meeting for coffee or running into people or going to a meetup group or whatever it is, a conference, it's very easy. Everything is downtown and everything is 10 minutes away. And Houston and Dallas, that is 100% not the case. You're driving 30 to 45 minutes to get anywhere. And so it just doesn't make networking as easy. In Austin, networking is, I mean, it's not even networking. It's just, you're just out there and you're meeting people and it's effortless. And I never experienced that in Dallas.
That's crazy. It reminds me of, you know, before we hit record, I was just saying I kind of moved away from Chiang Mai, and I guess it's like a Chiang Mai, but obviously it's in the States, so it's much more expensive, right? There's more potential money there, I guess, right? Because I think Chiang Mai, I'm like, oh, everyone's close, everyone's building businesses, everyone's like tight in the community, sharing, meeting. I assume it's like that, but because I'm trying to picture in my mind, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I guess it's like that, yeah.
It is, and I asked a number of my guests that also live in Chiang Mai the comparisons, and it sounds very similar, where people are, no one is from there and no one is from Austin. I mean, they're when you meet people here, it's like 10 or 15% of the people that you meet have lived here longer than 10 years. So everybody's new, and everybody is starting something or has failed at something and is starting something new. But everyone is helping the person behind them in line to come into the city and get acclimated. And I felt that, I mean, with almost immediately, and it just clicked, like, okay, that's how it's done. And so that helped me get synced in, because I came into the city not knowing anything about podcasting, similar to you coming to Chiang Mai when you in your story with Johnny FD. Like you were starting at the ground level, and so was I in the podcasting world. And I came in with the idea of starting one and no idea how to do it. I had never even looked at a Audacity software in my life and only talked on a microphone maybe a half a dozen times in my life. So it was all very new, but it just clicked. I knew that was the path that I wanted to go down. And I mean, literally and figuratively raised my hand in a meeting at our co-working space and said, I'm going to start a podcast and I have no idea what I'm doing. So if anybody here can help me, that would be great. And the doors flew open. People just said, oh, you need to talk to this person, you need to talk to that person. And then once I got started, then it was this is your narrative. You're interviewing people like this. Well, then you need to talk to that person and this person. And from a launch and from the equipment I needed and all of the different things that I needed to get started, and then helping me get guests on the show that fit the narrative that I was going after, it just happened. It happened. I wouldn't say effortlessly, because I just really put myself out there in every different possible situation that I could, in any meetup group, in any conversation and anything like that. And, I was rolling the snowball up the hill, but it seems like I got the snowball up the hill pretty quickly. And then the momentum happened. And it was because of the community here. It really was. I'd not experienced that in Dallas, because I just think it's just such a bigger city, and it's more sprawl, and it's very siloed. If you're in Dallas, you're working for financial services or insurance or oil and gas or whatever it is. Here in Austin and downtown, I mean, all of the startups here, they're across all different industries, or they're building an app, or they're providing a service, or they're selling products, or whatever it is. But it's not siloed. It's all like startup tech downtown, and you're in.
Yeah. It's funny, as you're talking, I'm thinking, because I'm like kind of living in Saigon for another month or so. I've been here for a little bit, and it compared to Chiang Mai, I assume, because I would just post like on a Facebook group or something like that, and I'm like, hey, are there any talks going on or any meetups for podcasters, or is there something going around in like this niche? Is Austin kind of like that, where you could just straight up post up and be like, hey man, I want to do a seminar, is anyone interested? Or like, what's that ease of connection to get into like that type of vibe where it's like kind of free in a way? You know what I mean?
Sure. My experience is that a year and a half ago, I was trying to do the same thing. Like, hey, I'm meeting these people that either have podcasts or have experience in them, but like some of them know each other and some of them don't. And so I'm like, well, gosh, a Facebook group is the first step. For me, I like Facebook over Meetup, but it's each person's personal preference. So I started researching different groups within Facebook that pertained to local podcasters, and there were only 2 of them, and they were both kind of outdated. They really weren't being utilized very much. So I wanted to just make sure I wasn't duplicating my efforts. I was new to town. I wanted to make sure I wasn't stepping on someone else's toes that was ahead of me and building a community, and I could just simply facilitate and help that person. But I couldn't find them, so I simply became that person, and I opened up a Facebook group, and I asked one of my friends that I had met that also is a host of a podcast here in Austin, hey, would you like to be the other admin? And then we'll just get our people that we know have other podcasts on here. Maybe we can, share information, selling equipment, borrowing equipment, just podcast news. Let's just see what happens. And it took off. That was just over a year ago. Now we have 230 people in the group. And after about 6 months, we learned of Austin's small, but it's interesting. We learned of a meetup group here in Austin, but it was on the northern side of Austin. The only thing that separated here in Austin from downtown, there's a very northern part called the Domain, and it's where a lot of like biotech and silicon or semiconductor companies and IBMs of the world and Dells of the world are about 20 minutes north of here. And that's the only negative maybe, is that people that live up there and go to meetup groups up there, it is a little bit separated from downtown. But we learned of this meetup group, and me and the other admin of our Facebook group went to one of their meetings, and it was a very well attended meeting. And they had 70 people in their group. And at the time we had about 80 people in our Facebook group, and only 3 or 4 were in both groups. It was completely we were amazed. Like, wait a minute, this is a massive community here in Austin, and no one knows each other. And so we just joined forces with the head of the meetup group, and he's now an admin on the Facebook group. So it's the three of us running really both of them, and anything that happens in one group happens in the other one, because we just wanted to cater to how people prefer to manage their calendars or schedules of events that they go to each night, whether it's a Facebook event or a meetup event. We were trying to make it as easy as possible for people to know we were out there.
Yeah. Did you find any, like, cause I see you dipping in like the production game a bit, and like doing these seminars and everything. I saw your wife post something that you're just kind of killing on like a seminar presentation. Do you find people doing that or no? Like, I thought that was funny. I'm not making fun of you like that your wife posted that, but I'm just saying.
I'm glad you did. No, Anthony, it's been an incredible, strange evolution that all started with, I'm going to start a podcast, and it's thrown me into all kinds of incredible conversations, you being one of them, with you being a guest on the show, but and all of these conversations with people like you that have a very different, interesting, pull the ripcord path in your life, and you chose the more difficult route. And I've had the privilege to have over 70 conversations now with people that have done something like you've done, and then the ultimate privilege of them allowing me to share their stories. And then it's just thrown me into, here in the local community, being one of the podcast guys that if that episode or that seminar that you're speaking of was a content marketing seminar on a Saturday, and the person that was running it brought in someone that was an expert in Facebook Live video marketing, and other people that were experts in blogging, and everything was about content. And because I've thrown myself into the middle of the ring in the podcast world, she asked me to come in and do a 30-minute talk on how to start a podcast, and then why, and then the whole evolution of what to expect, and then ending in monetization. And a year and a half ago, man, I would have been sitting in the audience feverishly writing notes. And now, just because I started, and because I've kept with it every single week, I've published an episode, I've become the at least one of the people in the community that is called upon to come in and speak about it.
It's crazy. You know what's crazier too? I'm so surprised that like more people aren't getting into the podcast production game. You know what I mean? It's like before this interview, I was like, dude, I wonder how many podcasts launch a day. Do you know the answer?
Oh my gosh, I wish I knew that. I have no idea.
Dude, it was like 250 in like 5 years ago. It's like over 500 a day. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. They're so underserved. So, like, just imagine all the people that are producing their own podcasts, like you or anyone who wants to help pull that ripcord and just make, some side change or,
sure,
whatever they're doing. I was so blown away by that. Just like 500 a day. That, like, half the people listening have their own show right now, and they could just get into the production game. You know what I mean? And I know you launched the course, right? That was like really super simple kind of, breakdown of how to do it.
I launched a course on Udemy, speaking
right,
to basically myself as if I was talking to myself in April 2016. Like, that's right, with zero experience and all kinds of energy, and not sure where to direct it. And so I did the minimum viable product approach to starting a podcast. And you can start for less than $7 a month to host on Libsyn, and you can interview people through Skype. You can edit on Audacity. You can use earbuds, and you upload your MP3 onto Libsyn. You can build your web page on Libsyn, and you can host your podcast on there for $7 a month. And that's actually with a unique URL that if you want to register your actual show name, which is highly recommended. And so for less than $7 a month, you can get started. So this course on Udemy, and it's podcasting 0 to launch on Apple Podcasts in 30 days. And if you use the promo code Podcast Ninja, you get $20 off, Anthony. There you go.
Oh, wow. You set it up already, man. Nice.
There you go. Yeah. So it's just a course that takes somebody from, I have an idea, how do I get it on Apple Podcasts? And I just fill in the blank. as simple as I can, as simply as I could, just to get that person started. And in the course, I just recommend, like, I know it's overwhelming and I know it's daunting. And ironically, like, it fits into my narrative of the people like you that I talk to. Like, it is daunting to reinvent your life. It is daunting to make a massive change in your life. It is daunting to start a podcast, but I want to do it. And it's when that motivation to do it overwhelms and overtakes the scared factor, that's when you start. And this course, I mean, you can be up and going in 30 days with your first podcast. And I recommend someone, you know what, go into it thinking I'm going to do 5. I'm going to just do 5 episodes and then see if I like it and see if it fits into my schedule and see what I think. And that's my recommendation.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because I produce a lot of podcasts, but doing one, I remember someone said, like, what's the best advice? This is someone else, and they're like, just realize that, like, commit to that you're going to do it for the rest of your life, because it's like a weekly task of constantly trying to find a guest or something, and sometimes it could be overwhelming. People don't know if they want to do it. They do 20 episodes and drop out, or or they take a course, man. Like your course is pretty simple, clean. And I bought this course from, Lewis Howes from School of Greatness podcast. So I bought his podcast course. I don't know if it was his or an affiliate or something. Like, I know how to do it, but I just was curious, like, on what he was, what his content looked like. And honestly, dude, I was not knocking it, but I was a little disappointed. I got a refund. I ran through it in like 10 minutes, and I was like, it's clean, it's beautiful, but it was just like slow and not too much fluff, but it just didn't move enough for me. Like, I think the generation, someone like me, is like, I just want quick, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, and I'll get some tips from someone else. And I don't know, man. That's why, like, I love talking about the community that you have, and I see a lot of questions going on in there, and it's like, I think sometimes it's good to have just like the core basic that you have, and then add on some tips and tricks as you go along. I don't know if you found that. You didn't take any courses, right? You kind of just did Q&A through everyone, right? You kind of like learned as you went and then bought your own equipment.
Yeah, I did not pay for any courses when I got started. I watched a ton of YouTube videos and talked to anyone that would talk to me in regards to if they had a show. I wanted to know what they were doing. And I didn't know, like, how do you record over Skype? Like, how does that work? How do you record in person? Do you plug microphones into your computer, or do you need an outside audio recorder? I didn't know anything, and so I just started asking as many questions as I could, and you can really learn anything on YouTube. And so I relied on really the in-person community here in Austin, and then YouTube, and dove in from there. And your first recording and your first 10 episodes are going to be bad. I mean, you're going to look back on them and cringe. But I mean, the famous quote from Mark Zuckerberg is that if you come to market with a product that you're not embarrassed with, you've waited too long. Like, you've waited too long. If you're not embarrassed with your initial product, you've waited too long. And that's how I took it with the first episode. Like, I know I'm going to look back on this and cringe at myself more than anything else, and the production and all of that stuff, but I just went to market with it. And then I've improved it nearly every 10 or 15 episodes, I think are pretty different. And even, I mean, I'm 73 episodes in, 72, 73 episodes in. And the one that's probably the most different is number 72. Like, I made a bunch of big changes between episodes 71 and 72. Unplanned. It was just like they all kind of happened at once with different background music and the way I've structured the whole conversation. It's a constant evolution. And it's sometimes overwhelming because you have the ultimate control. Like, there are no rules in podcasting. You've got the ultimate control. And so sometimes you're overwhelmed with like so many different choices that it is overwhelming. Like, how do you choose your background music? You could go a million different directions with that. Gosh. But the ultimate is that it's all you. You can do with it whatever you want, whatever feels right, and whatever is working for your audience.
It's crazy because, I listened to my episode when I was on your show, and I checked out some of your recent episodes, and I think it was cool that you shortened up the intro a bit. You know how some people do like that really like 30 second long intro. You're like, oh, okay, let's get. You're just like, boom, Go Hunt Life podcast. I'm like, cool. And then he starts talking like right away. It's just like money. And then I'm like not critiquing. I'm just like sharing like, oh, I just love that because I like try to stress that so much with people, and I'm assuming you felt the same way. That's why you kept it clean and punchy, and I like it. I'm just saying I like it. I think it's cool. Maybe someone could get that tip or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the biggest change probably within the last 20 episodes is that I start and I think you do this too. I start the actual episode with the teaser from the guest. So the guest is the first person that my listener hears. And then it's a quick intro of the show, and then I'm right into the introduction of that particular unique episode. And then I do have a 1-minute advertiser, and then it jumps right into the interview. So the first thing that somebody hears is the best part of that interview, or why they should listen to the entire conversation.
What about the thumbnail? So I remember dude, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just talking. I just think someone could like learn from the thumbnails. And man, I remember when you posted mine and compared to now, it's like, dude, your thumbnails now are so clean and just crisp. Are you happy with your thumbnail or your cover photo? I don't know what you want to call it. Finally. Okay. All right, cool, man.
I was initially, and then it was, I think that as you go along with a podcast, there are thorns in your side that grow deeper as you get into it, and things bother you. Like things are like, I don't like that part of it, but man, I don't have time to change it this week. And so maybe next week. So finally I'm happy with a cool, clean, crisp logo icon for the show and for the episode images as well. I'm finally pleased with that. I like the colors, and I just simply used what others like. The red with Todd Nevins is the red from NPR. The green in my image is the green from a startup here called Evernote. And I just like that color green. And I figured, you know what? They've spent all of the money to determine what is the right green. Why don't I just use all of that research that they went through and implement it into my show? And that's what I did.
That's cool, man. Wait, Evernote as far as like the note-taking app?
Exactly. It's the green in my logo cool, is their green in their logo. Dude,
I love the Evernote app. I use it like constantly. I do too. It's crazy, man. Yeah, so all right, so you changed a lot of things, man. Like, what about podcast gear? Like, have you had the same mic from when you first started?
I have. I started with using earbuds. So my first 3 episodes, I simply used earbuds plugged into my computer and called the person on Skype. So my first 3 are, with zero investment. And then on my 4th one, I actually started, and I'm talking to you now on a Samsun Q2U, which is basically exactly like the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. It's identical. Okay. You can do XLR and USB, and I've used that ever since. And so as far as equipment, I started with a Samsun Q2U or an Audio-Technica ATR 2100, and then I bought a second one, and then I bought a Zoom H5 audio recorder if I'm interviewing somebody in person. And so that's all of the equipment that I have. So less than $500 in equipment, and for the most part, I just use the microphone and I plug it in via USB into my Mac, and I'm calling someone through Skype.
Yeah, so that's it. Like, and the Q2U, they come with a pair of headphones, right? So what is it, like $60? You know, like, and then like the startup is like, you could even get it under $100, right? If you really wanted to,
easily.
I guess. Yeah,
easily.
Crazy, man. I can't believe you started with earbuds, man. That's like
I did. Minimum viable product.
That is crazy, man. Like, I remember because normally when you go to start something, everyone does like like hours and hours and hours of research, right? Like just like constantly Googling and what's the best thing. You just ran with it, man. That's really impressive. I love that. And I saw the podcast studio. I got so excited, man, when I saw that studio post on Facebook. And I don't know if I messaged you right away or a couple of days later. I was like, dude, we got to talk. And I want you to talk about that, man. Talk a little bit about the podcast studio. You kind of like launched a shared space or something. It's free. I don't know. Like, give it to me, man. What's it all about?
It has changed. It's changed the mentality in the game here in Austin. And Austin is a really progressive city with probably 15 or 20 different co-working spaces sprawled all over. Maybe 7 of them are downtown and the rest are kind of just outside of downtown. And the startup studio at Galvanize is the name of the co-working space that I actually have worked out of for a year and a half. And with me and a person that is actually employed at Galvanize and a couple of other people that influence the media space here, they came to Galvanize and said, we envision a free podcast studio that is open to the public. Anybody in the community that wants to use it, if you invest in the equipment and people, you allow people to come in, you're wanting foot traffic into your business to showcase Galvanize. You create a free studio for people to come in there and use it, and it's a feel-good, positive part of the community, and now people are coming into your space where they wouldn't have been in there. So co-working is the slam dunk easy one, and we simply just transformed one of the conference rooms. So there was no build out or anything like that. We had one of the media companies here donated about 9 or 10 really thick studio panels, sound deadening panels, and some microphone stands. And then Galvanize invested less than $1,200 total. They bought a Zoom H6 recorder. They bought a $150 360 video camera, and they bought 2 Audio-Technica ATR 2020 microphones, which are really nice, about $150 each. And some signage and a sign out front that you can turn on that says on air that looks really cool. And a quick little website where you can go on and request your time in the studio. And so for under $1,200, and a co-working space is a slam dunk, but really if you're in a good location, you can be anything. If you're looking to bring somebody into maybe your marketing agency, you transform a conference room into a co-space for podcast recording, or you're a mailbox place, or any web design company, or just anywhere where you have an extra closet or conference room, you can. The Galvanize transformed this for under $1,500, and now has free traffic coming into their space and checking it out. And the first big event, the grand opening of this studio, we had almost 50 people come in, and the next day Galvanize had 2 people sign up to be co-working members. So they got their money back within the first 2 months. They've got a return completely, and now they're getting all of this publicity, the Austin Business Journal. They got all of this publicity on just a $1,200, $1,300 investment. And it's a great part of the community now. It's awesome.
So I guess, like, I'm thinking, I'm blown away, man, because free, it doesn't make any sense, man. That's like crazy. No one's doing that at all. You know what I mean? And I guess, okay, so
that's one of the challenges, Anthony, because nobody believes it's free. Like, dude, honestly, that's one of the biggest things. I had somebody in there that wanted to tour it and came in a couple of days ago, and he said, okay, well, I'll check and see. I mean, after all of this stuff, he's like, I'll check and see, like how much it costs to be a Galvanize member. I'm like, no. This is free. Like whatever it doesn't cost you anything. You register your time, you book your time online, and then you come in during hours and you go to the front desk at Galvanize and you check out the audio equipment, and it's in a bin, and you check it out, which means you're legally liable if you break something, and you go into the studio. And I've actually recorded a video that is on the Austin Podcast Community Facebook page that shows someone exactly how to set up the equipment, what to make sure these buttons are pushed, and all what you need coming in, all that stuff. And then they watch the video, they can set up the equipment, they sit down with their guests, they record an episode, they take the equipment back apart, put it in the bin, take it downstairs to the desk, and they walk out with the SD card that they brought in with them with their podcast episode on it, and they have paid nothing.
That's crazy, man. Because, like, when people think free, they're thinking, like, all right, what's the catch, right? Like,
exactly.
That's what they're thinking. Like, oh, what do I have to sign up for? Or I get, so, all right, so I have to clarify one more time. So I literally could walk in. I don't have to sign up for anything. I could just go in there, schedule an hour or whatever, take out the equipment and record, like, done. No problem.
That's it. That's it. My recommendation is that you bring a couple of extra batteries in case the Zoom is low on batteries, and you bring your own SD card so you know that you are in control as to how much space is left on your SD card. $20 for an SD card. You come in, you plug it, you stick that into the Zoom, you sit down with your guest, you record an hour, and you put the equipment back in the box, and you walk downstairs and hand it back into the desk, and you walk out. It is exactly that, and no hidden anything.
Yeah, and I assume like this is more for like live. I assume because like
you're not gonna get
Wi-Fi, right? Like that's
you get Wi-Fi for sure. No, you get Wi-Fi. There's guest Wi-Fi. You can come in and reserve the studio if you want to just interview somebody over Skype.
Skype, yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah. So you could come in, you jump on the guest network, and you record. You know that you're going to be in a quiet, controlled environment. That's what we're all looking for, a quiet, controlled environment. So you come in there and you don't need the equipment. If you have your own equipment, you don't even check out the equipment. You just set a time online, come in, record your Skype interview, and pack up your laptop and walk out, and you pay nothing.
That's crazy, man. So, I mean, of course, that's going to bring so much, of course, community, right? Like the hub of podcasting is going to be attracted to that. Once they see like, oh, it's legit, this is a cool community, cool people. I love co-working places myself. So if I'm ever passing through Austin, which I think I will one day, and of course I would check that out, right? That's like a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
It's crazy. So, all right. So beyond the community, so they're, I guess, from the business side of it, they're kind of banking a little bit on a tight community, which is everything, especially as a nomad, right? You travel all around, you're meeting and greeting people. We're these different types of people that kind of don't work 9 to 5, so it's nice to have that feel. You really appreciate that over time. Some people listening don't really care, but I think over time you'll be like, you know what? That friendship community is important. And I'm assuming on the other side is the business side, right? They want to help try to convert to be a member, right? So how much was the membership a month? I forgot.
At Galvanize, it's $350 a month for general membership.
Okay, and then is it 24/7 or?
If you're a member, it is 24/7. To get access to the studio right now, it's really office hours Monday through Friday, but there are so many events going on at Galvanize evenings during the week, Monday through Thursday, that you can also reserve it then, and that would mean that there is a Galvanize employee there to check you in and check you out of the facility and of the studio.
That's cool, man. So, are you there often? You said you're not recording there now, but I mean, like, what's the traffic looking like? Are like people coming in often, still asking questions, or how does that traffic look?
I think that the studio is used at least once a day, if not twice a day. Fridays, randomly, I don't know whether it's Austin or coworkers or self-employed entrepreneurs, but the slow day in there is typically on Fridays, where people have already gotten to jump on their
That's
weekend.
Coworkers worldwide, I think. They just hate Fridays. It's crazy.
So the
Even
best
Thursdays,
the best day to organize an event at the studio and book time is on Fridays, because that's when it's least likely to be used. And Galvanize is balancing that still is a conference room that is utilized by the members, and so they don't want to overstep the people that are paying for it. But there were open times when that conference room was not being utilized, and so they've filled in those open times with something that gets new people into the space, and they utilize it, and they on their shows, I'm sure some of them are saying, yeah, we're at the new startup studio at Galvanize in downtown Austin. I mean, it's such a no-brainer from a promotional perspective and a PR perspective from Galvanize. I mean, they're already cash flow positive on their investment, and it's been open less than 3 months.
Yeah, and it's no joke, man. Like, I'm looking at a picture right now, and I'll post pictures in the show notes too,
cool.
Or I'll link your Facebook link, and you got the big TV, man. You got the clean hardwood floors, the padding, the glass. Like, it's nice, it's clean. I'm curious, man. So no one like local. There's got to be studios in the area, right? There's other like professional studios. Has anybody given you a hard time or message you or anything and say like, hey, man, what's up with this? You know what I mean? Because most people, you pay $100 an hour, maybe $2, depending on how high quality of a studio you want to rent out, right?
For sure. There are studios that make money specifically on allowing somebody to come in and record voiceover or podcast interviews or whatever it is. No, we've not. I haven't personally heard anything, and I don't think anyone else has, because I mean, free is free. Like, they've invested the energy and the time and the money and the effort and the promotion and all of that to give something that anyone in Central Texas can use. And so I think that just kind of draws a line in the sand, like, hey, you know, like we are, this fits into our business model to drive people into this facility and to see how cool it is, and then use the studio upstairs for free. It's a positive impression of our co-working space from the start, and it fits into the business model, and then it just is a slam dunk for the community.
Yeah, man. And I'm sure, you know, a lot of times it, like, you know, you say promotion because, you know, I don't think, like, maybe it's not a long-term strategy, do you think? Right? I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be, you know, someone listening to this, say if they listen to like a year from now, they're like, oh, dude, it's not free anymore. Dude,
sure.
If I was in Austin, I'd be all over that, and I'd promote it like crazy, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it is such a well-utilized facility and people are just like trying to book it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, then obviously that's a good problem. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
This is the minimum viable product. Like, will people like it? Will people use it? Will the current members of Galvanize be upset because their conference room is taken over with podcasters? Like, all of those things. There's just kind of like, let's try it and see, and see, and then adjust it. And so yeah, it may cost something in a year. I don't know, but they're just trying to see where it goes and to see how frequently it's utilized. But so far, it's been incredible.
That's good, man. So I assume you must be feeling pretty fulfilled, right? Like, you help with like this whole podcasting uproar of community coming up. Your show's doing really well. You're having fun. I don't know. Do you feel like you kind of feel accomplished? Like, the next step is, like, you'd say you're going to move and pull the ripcord from Austin soon and maybe take a break for a little bit. I don't know if, am I allowed to talk about that? Or I don't know if you're
sure, of course. Right. Heck yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, you know what? I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I don't know. Do you feel fulfilled, man? Like, do you feel like, all right, man, I'm ready to take the next step? I feel like this chapter is, man, it's like so accomplished.
That's exactly how I feel. The podcast, Anthony, it's changed my life. Like, it really has. It's been one of the best things that I've ever done, certainly in my career, from a work business, like, feel good perspective, but then from a personal perspective, I feel like I'm almost like cheating. Like, I'm able to get all of this incredible information from these people that inspire me and that I aspire to be like in certain situations, whether it's their business or whether they're, you know, minimalists traveling the world or whatever it is. Like, I've been able to feel like I'm getting an MBA for free from the people that inspire me the most, and then allow me the privilege to share their story. So I am incredibly fulfilled. And yes, in March of next year, my wife and I have decided that 2 years in Austin is how long we're going to be here, and we're going to certainly take what we've learned and know in our hearts that we've given back more than we've taken, just from all of the stuff that we've just talked about. And we're jumping back into to Central Mexico. My wife's business, she does an Amazon FBA business where she buys stuff from Central Mexico, and then we've built the supply chain to get it from her vendors in Mexico across into the United States and then into Amazon. And man, that was really started with a conversation that I had with Johnny FD when he was a guest on my show about his FBA business. I know he's big into drop shipping, but we were also discussing Amazon FBA, and that conversation and a couple of other conversations with people that are also Amazon FBA sellers, like, that information really forced us to retool my wife's business, she was just selling it on her WooCommerce store, and it was just not taking off like we expected. But as soon as we transitioned over into an Amazon FBA environment, everything changed. So we're going down there to continue to build her business, which was partially inspired by the people that have been on the show, and to interview other people that are out there and have pulled the ripcord from wherever their home country was and they're traveling throughout Mexico, I want to interview those people in person versus just over Skype. I mean, the power behind, Facebook live stream with me and a guest sitting in a cafe on the streets of Mexico has certainly a heck of a lot more of an impact than a Skype interview. So I want to layer in more video compared to what I've done so far.
Yeah, and your wife, I guess, I assume the business does pretty well. You spoke about it before, but I don't think you've actually mentioned, like, what do you do online?
Yeah, I am a AdWords marketing consultant. So I work with small businesses, nonprofits, and startups to help them drive traffic, sales, leads, phone calls, whatever fits their business through AdWords and Bing ads. And so that is my primary bread and butter. And so within all of my podcast episodes, and certainly a lot of the people that I have on the show are entrepreneurs. They're stuck in a corporate job and they ripcord it out and they're doing something on their own, or they're building a nonprofit that they're passionate about, or they're building, whatever they're building. And so I help people like that, small business owners and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, drive the quality traffic that they're looking for through AdWords.
Okay. Yeah, I like, you kind of laughed at me when you went to answer. I had known you for like a year now, and I'm like, dude, I was pretty sure it was along those lines, but I just kind of wanted you to refine tune it, because that also crossed my mind. I was like, all right, I guess he could still, because the question is, like, you could still do that obviously online. You don't have to be in the Austin community, which is cool, right? And yeah, that seems like you're pretty level with that business as far as, like, it's sustainable, like, if anything happened, right? So that's what I was thinking, like, all right, they're going to Mexico, because my girlfriend and I the other day, we were thinking, like, we didn't work for like 3 days straight, and we're just like kind of kicking it, watching movies, and we went downtown, in Vietnam. We're like, wow, actually, I'm really grateful for the job that I have, man. Like, I have this control that, like, man, it's so gratifying. It almost like emotional sometimes. You're like, geez, this is crazy. Right? Just like that freedom that you have, and you can just go and pick up, just grab your Q2U and just hit on down to Mexico. That's crazy, man.
It is. We all have, the underlying theme of the people that I've talked to is that we have more control of our lives than what we really think. We really, really do. And then when you get to the other side of that, and like what you just said, you're walking down the street, you've got 3 days, you're just downtown, you're like, man, I really did it. I remember my life back at Best Buy, and look at my life now. I did it. This is amazing. And that's the theme in a lot of the conversations from the people that I talk to. Like, gosh, I was an attorney, I was a teacher, I was a doctor, but I was unfulfilled. I wasn't happy. I knew that there was more, but I just didn't know how to get there. And then once I got there and I stood on that beach that I had the picture of in my cubicle for a year, and when I finally stood on that beach and I thought, man, it is possible. I have the control to do this. It's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also such a perk that you kind of incorporated your own business that you started. When did you kind of start your own entrepreneur online journey, if you want to, business-wise? When did you start opening these companies up?
I've been blessed that it was back in 20 years ago. I left corporate 20 years ago, and started as a executive recruiter out of the house with a phone and a computer. And I started as an executive recruiter. Then that blended into starting a online job board. And how I built that job board was through AdWords marketing. And so that was 13, 14 years ago. I started doing that for my own business. And then my friends and associates, this was very early on in AdWords, and they said, man, I know I should be doing that, and you're growing your business doing it. Would you mind doing it for me, for my business? I'm a dentist. I'm a, whatever business they had. And so I just started doing it on the side over a decade ago. And then it's turned into, my core income, my core business. And so my clients are all over the United States, and some of them are in Texas, but some of them are in California and Boston and Nashville. I mean, they're all over. But the theme is that they're small and medium-sized businesses. I typically just work with the owners of those businesses. If it's up in a big corporate thing with all these different moving parts and decision makers, I tap out. I typically tap out. Like, I want to work with the business owners, the people that are able to make the really quick decisions and good decisions based on just, a couple of pieces of information. They make a decision and we go on down the road. That fits how I make decisions too.
Yeah, and that's actually like one of the reasons why I started this podcast too, because I think it's so important for, you have this like core business and you're kind of using the podcast to, experience yourself and learn and grow, and then also support your own business and grow that at the same time, which is so cool. And I think more people need to kind of have that some sort of framework and mindset when they're trying to pair their, whatever you call it, marketing, whatever you want to call it, it's really just promotion. Podcasting is just a way to speak your voice, and I think that's really cool that you did that. And I guess I'm curious as far as when it comes to like monetization or ads and things like this, have you kind of tipped the scale over the last year to where you're kind of seeing like some money come in from your podcast directly?
Yeah, when you ask how do you monetize, like the first thing people think of is an advertisement on the podcast, and then your listeners go and you buy those products or services, and that advertiser pays you. And so that's the first light bulb that goes off when you think monetization, but it wasn't what I did first. I mean, I've been cross-promoting my AdWords marketing services from the very first episode. So that's monetization. You can cross-promote whether you've got a book or whether you've got podcast editing services that you also offer, or you've got courses online, or you're consulting like me, like you can cross-promote anything, and that's monetization. It took me about 40 episodes, 35 or 40 episodes before I got an official advertiser. And so I do have a 1-minute spot at the beginning and a 15 to 20 second spot at the end. And it's actually an advertiser, and he's a listener. I also run his marketing AdWords campaigns, and so I already had an existing relationship with him. But the key to it is that his business, he does online printing, and so he's headquartered out of California, but he ships stuff all over the United States, and he does a lot of different types of printing, business cards and letterhead and menus and decals and all of this different type of printing. And so why it was advantageous to advertise with me wasn't just that I was reaching an audience that he didn't have, but it was the fact that his ads were going to live on those episodes forever. Like we discussed, like I'm not going to stop podcasting, so I'm going to always be growing my audience. And when I get a new listener that listens to maybe a recent episode, a certain percentage of those people go back and listen to old episodes. And it too. Like you can look on your Libsyn stats. Now I'm a year and a half later, and every month I can look back and say, and every single one of my episodes has been listened to this month, in this previous month. So I'm providing evergreen content. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to podcast, and his business will still be in business in a year and 2 years and 3 years selling the same types of products. So it works in that scenario because it's not just a one-time investment and he gets his 1-minute ad. It's out there for years.
Yeah, which is I think a good plus on your part. As long as you keep going, I think it's interesting because you've never had a podcast traveling yet, right?
No, I have not. That's a great point. I have not.
I don't know. I'm not like sitting here like, dude, warning, like, but I'm just curious because you're going to bring the 2QU, I assume. You're going to keep it light on the podcast gear, or? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's one of the beauties behind the Zoom is that it is completely mobile. I'm traveling out to North Carolina in the next couple of weeks, and I've actually got an AdWords client that I got through Upwork, which is another monetization tool that I learned of from you, that I'm like, wait a minute, Upwork, you can actually get gigs all over the country. So I jumped on there and with my AdWords marketing, and I'm now running a campaign from a woman out in North Carolina that trains dogs. But her dogs are really, like, if you buy a puppy from her, it's $5,000 to $8,000 because she is training them. Like, it's not just obedience trained. She can train them to sense if you're low on blood sugar, if you're a diabetic, like that level. And so she's training dogs that literally are saving people's lives, puppies. And so, but she was a chef. She was a professional chef her entire career and opened up restaurants. And then I hated working for people that hated working for me. and I quit, and she reinvented. It is now a high-end dog trainer. So I'm taking my equipment out there. I'm going to go to her breeding facility and training facility, and I'm going to interview her in person and live Facebook stream that, and that'll be an interview on the road with her.
Oh, that's gonna be cool, man. First off, like a lot of people are actually sleeping on Upwork, man. You don't like, as long as you're patient and you don't go for like the super low budget people, you be patient enough, people come around, and I still get quite a bit of clients from Upwork, and via word of mouth also. But that's really cool, man. The Upwork. But I'm also curious about. I want to know your experience on the road. I'm gonna tap back in after some time, like, hey, man, how's it going? Because sometimes I think it could be a bit stressful, and a lot of people, we talk about Johnny FD, and sometimes it's difficult to kind of like find the right person for the show, and you're kind of pressured. So maybe you have to kind of tap out and do that Skype call. And I know people that do like 40 episodes, stack them up. They just keep them going because they don't want to feel like that. So I don't know. Do you have a plan around that or no?
Yeah, I'm not going to do 40. I'm typically right now two or three episodes ahead. I always, when I interview somebody, I'm always like, I don't want to say, okay, in 2 months it's going to be live, so get your excitement back up and please promote it if you would. I mean, that seems like too long down the road. So I'm typically 2 or 3 weeks out. My comfort level at this point is Skype. And so, and for me to think that I'm only going to interview people in person and I will have enough people to interview, I don't think that's the case. And I actually don't want just that. I want to keep doing Skype stuff because that enables me to interview people from all over the globe. And then the in-person stuff will just be cycled in. Our plans are to get to a place. We're going to San Miguel de Allende first, down in Mexico. We have friends there. We already have an apartment there. And our plan is really to kind of stay in one place for probably 4 months at a time and then go to the next place. But I mean, in San Miguel, I'm 4 blocks from the co-working space in San Miguel. So I already know that I'm walking to work at the co-working space every day. And so the co-working spaces, as far as the cities that we choose, that's going to be a pretty big part of where we live and the cities that we choose. And we are going to stay just within Mexico for a while for my wife's business, and it's our comfort zone. After living there for 5 years, we now have people that we know in pretty much all of the major cities around that country. So we will have, our landing will be softened. And from a work perspective now if we go to Mexico City, there's 1 million co-working spaces there. In Guadalajara, also there's a bunch of them. San Miguel, that's a small city of only 150,000, and there are 2 co-working spaces to choose from. So they will be there. And we're just going to jump in and utilize them.
That's all good, man. I hope you guys have fun, enjoy yourselves, and man, I don't know, just keep living, I guess, right? This is good, man. It's always good to hear, man. The journey's really cool to hear.
Heck yeah.
I think at this point we could wrap it up, man. I just want to give someone, give the opportunity to kind of just talk about where someone wants to reach out. I couldn't find like any website for the podcast studio, or is it a Facebook page? So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, how to reach out to you? Yeah,
if you want to check out what's going on with the studio, go to startupstudioshow.com. And my podcast is actually listed on there. And the long-term vision is to have that be a network of local podcasts. So somebody can come in and do a search by genre or whatever and find the podcasts that are getting produced, not just out of the studio, but just out of Austin in general. So startupstudioshow.com, and you can check out the studio. And for me, you want me to give my social channels? Yeah, man. Yeah, splash it out. Go ahead. All right. Yeah. For gohuntlife.com, you can catch me anywhere in the social channels at gohuntlife. And as far as my marketing service, it's clickplacement.com. And that's it. Cool, man. Yo, Todd, honestly, I just want to thank you, man, because, sometimes some people reach out to me and they say they had a conversation with you and like, yo, I talked to Todd, they said I should talk to you. You're a good person. And I don't know, I thank you for coming on the show, and thanks for just, supporting me and just being a good friend and good support over the last year. So thanks, man. Man, I really appreciate it. Thank you as well. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening to the 15th episode of Podcast Ninja. If you want to go ahead and check out Todd's show, or you want to find out how to book your free studio time in Austin, go ahead and go to podcastninja.net/15. Talk to you soon.
Podcast Ninja.